Crowds of protesters opposed to the coup in Myanmar are back on the streets, defying a warning by the military leaders. The police in the capital, Naypyidaw, have fired rubber bullets at protesters. The second impeachment trial of Donald Trump begins today in the U.S. Senate. The former president is charged with inciting insurrection in a speech ahead of the deadly riot at the U.S. Capitol just over a month ago. On the last day of a visit to Wuhan to investigate the origins of the coronavirus, scientists from the World Health Organization have said they still believe it came from an animal. They described as extremely unlikely the theory that it had leaked from a laboratory. Mary Wilson, one of the original members of the Supremes, whose music was a defining sound of the 1960s, has died aged 76.
World Health Organization officials investigating the origin of the coronavirus say it most likely jumped from one animal species to another before infecting humans. At a news conference today in the Chinese city of Wuhan, officials said it's also possible the virus was transmitted to humans through imported frozen food, but that it's highly unlikely the virus leaked from a laboratory. The number of job openings in the U.S. returned to pre-pandemic levels in January, a sign that hiring could be poised for a rebound after a sluggish start to the year. According to the job search site Indeed, industries that recovered quickly from the initial shock of the pandemic have led the growth in job openings, including warehousing, construction, and delivery services. And Chinese telecom giant Huawei filed a lawsuit in the U.S. disputing its designation by the FCC as a national security threat. U.S. officials have long said that Huawei gear could be exploited by Beijing to spy or disrupt telecommunications networks, which the company denies. The Biden administration has yet to clearly spell out its policy toward Huawei.
Experts from the World Health Organization are wrapping up their visit to Wuhan. They were in the Chinese city to probe the origins of the coronavirus, which has now infected over 106 million people. The WHO team and Chinese authorities spoke to reporters on Tuesday. The Chinese side repeated earlier claims the virus could have emerged in another region.
Retrospective research for potential earlier cases in cities including Wuhan in the 2 months prior to the outbreak in December 2019 has not revealed clear evidence of the occurrence of clinical cases of SARS-CoV-2 infection.
The WHO team leader said their findings suggest it's unlikely the virus leaked from a local laboratory.
And of course, we can continue exploring the potential that the early cases have, but a lot has already been done in trying to extract all the information that we could extract from these early cases in December 2019.
The experts were able to visit the Wuhan Institute of Virology and interview officials there. The institute is known for its research into bat coronaviruses. The Trump administration claimed the virus might have leaked from the facility. The WHO team began its investigation on January 29th. The experts also visited a seafood market where many people contracted the virus during the initial outbreak. The market is still fenced off. It was closed to foreign media after being shut down in January last year. The WHO said approval from Chinese authorities was needed to visit particular locations or arrange interviews. It said the team spent much of the time visiting facilities chosen by the government. They included an exhibition showcasing the Communist Party's success in containing the outbreak. Now, while the team's work in Wuhan has finished, the WHO is expected to continue researching the origin of the virus. Here in Japan, the coronavirus situation looks like it's continuing to improve. For the third day in a row, fewer than 500 new cases have been reported in the capital, one of the main hotspots. But many governors across the country remain cautious.
Reports are emerging from other areas about lifting the state of emergency, but Tokyo isn't that situation yet.
The medical system in our prefecture is still under strain. I will keep a close eye on the situation.
The state of emergency is currently in place in 10 prefectures, including Osaka. Infections are falling there as well. Officials reported 155 new cases on Tuesday. The prefecture's coronavirus task force also met to discuss asking the central government to lift the state of emergency. But the experts say it's too soon, since more than 60% of hospital beds for serious COVID-19 cases are still occupied.
If the declaration were lifted and another wave of infections hit, we would be defenseless. We all agree that the healthcare system would come under extreme strain.
Meanwhile, members of a central government panel are compiling measures to prevent another surge in cases once the state of emergency is lifted. They're calling on people to avoid social events as much as they can, including the country's famous cherry blossom viewing parties. They say it's important people of all ages continue to follow antivirus measures for the foreseeable future. Officials reported 1,570 new cases across the nation on Tuesday. They also confirmed 13 people contracted either the UK or South Africa variants. The health ministry says most of those may be due to a cluster infection. Protesters across Myanmar continue to take to the streets a day after the country's military chief defended the coup in a speech. The demonstrators are defying a ban on large gatherings and calling for the release of Aung San Suu Kyi and other detained leaders. In the capital, Naypyidaw, police fired water cannon at protesters on Tuesday when they refused to disperse. Local journalists say officers later fired rubber bullets at protesters and reporters, injuring several people. The military government has banned gatherings of 5 or more people in some cities and has imposed nighttime curfews. In the central city of Mandalay, police detained 30 people, including demonstrators and journalists.
We will not succeed unless we can put a stop to the government's operations. Workers at banks and civil servants are joining the protest. Some doctors are even returning their licenses in protest.
Some public employees are stopping their work as part of a campaign of civil disobedience. This government bank in Yangon was closed on Tuesday. Customers were unable to make withdrawals. On Monday night, Senior General Min Aung Hlaing addressed the nation on state TV for the first time since last week's coup. He defended the military's actions, alleging irregularities in November's general election. This resident says the protests have been spreading to more areas.
Even though yesterday night, the commander-in-chief, given the, first public speech, even the very early morning, a lot of young people are, gatherings in the different places. I think today the protests are more than yesterday.
Meanwhile, New Zealand's Prime Minister said her government will suspend all high-level political and military contacts with Myanmar.
I think every New Zealander would be devastated to see, after years of working so hard to build a democracy in Myanmar, to see what we've seen in recent days unfold led by the military.
And in Washington, a White House spokesperson expressed concern Beijing's response has so far been muted.
Certainly, we are concerned about China's absence from the conversation and lack of a vocal role here.
Psaki said the Biden administration is still considering what action to take. We've moved now to the controversial remarks made by the head of the Tokyo Olympics and Paralympics. Last week, Mori Yoshiro said meetings with women drag on because they talk too much. The International Olympic Committee earlier said the matter was closed after Mori's apology. But as international backlash intensifies, the IOC now says it denounces the comments. The IOC said in a statement on Tuesday, Mori's comments were absolutely inappropriate and in contradiction to the IOC's commitments and the reforms of its Olympic Agenda 2020. Mori's remarks drew harsh criticism. About 400 volunteers have dropped out over his comments, and dozens of corporate sponsors say they can't tolerate what he said. Some of them have been urged to pull their sponsorship. To address the pressure, the Japanese organizers are planning a joint session of the Executive Board and the Board of Counselors, possibly on Friday. The Executive Board has the authority to appoint the committee president. Mori himself is expected to attend. The head of the Japanese Olympic Committee has weighed in on the controversy.
I want to emphasize again that those remarks were extremely inappropriate as they violate the Olympic spirit, which never tolerates any kind of discrimination.
Yamashita was at the meeting last Wednesday when Modi made the remarks. Asked why he did not challenge him at the time, Yamashita said Modi made his comments in the middle of a wide-ranging 40-minute speech. The head of Japan's Maritime Self-Defense Force has expressed concern its submarine lost contact for nearly 3.5 hours after a collision with a commercial vessel. The sub Soryu and the cargo ship collided off Kochi Prefecture in southwestern Japan on Monday. The submarine's communications equipment was damaged, causing a delay in reporting the incident. The vessel had to navigate to an area where mobile phones could be used. MSDF Chief of Staff Yamamura Hiroshi apologized at a news conference on Tuesday. He said it's a serious problem. Communications were cut off at a time of emergency.
There are many communication antennas, but I think no one considered the possibility that all of them would be unusable, even temporarily. I think that's what we should reflect upon. I think we must admit that the unexpected happened.
He said he plans to take measures immediately, such as putting more portable satellite phones on vessels. Now officials continue to investigate the cause of the incident. The cargo ship arrived at a port in the western city of Kobe on Tuesday evening. The Japan Coast Guard is examining the vessel for damage. Coast Guard officials are also inspecting the submarine's damage and questioning its crew. The sub is now anchored near a port in Kochi. In other news, Hong Kong's top court has denied bail for pro-democracy activist Jimmy Lai. The media tycoon had been charged under the national security law China imposed last year. Lai is the founder of the Apple Daily newspaper, known for its critical stance against Beijing. He's urged the international community to support Hong Kong's pro-democracy movement. Late last year, Lai was charged for allegedly colluding with foreign forces and endangering national security. He was later released on bail, but was again returned to jail on New Year's Eve for a new hearing. And on Tuesday, the top court made a final decision to deny his bail. The court said the national security law states a defendant will not get bail unless the judge has sufficient grounds for believing the defendant will not commit a crime. The court added the security law takes precedence over Hong Kong's law. Moving now to the weather, people in northern Europe continue to fight severe winter weather while heavy rain impacts those in the west. Our meteorologist Jonathan Oh has the details in our World Weather Report.
Hello, we've been seeing a pretty active pattern across Europe where we've been seeing wave after wave of systems rolling through, especially the western areas of the continent, but in the process some really cold air coming in from the north as well. I want to start us off by looking at what's happening in France. Take a look at this video where we're talking about some significant flooding as we saw persistent rain that led to this flooding Monday in southwestern France. Water levels were knee-deep high in some areas. We saw waist-high water levels as well. Hundreds of people evacuated, others were rescued through boats, and also called widespread power cuts in the town as well. So we are talking about continued rain into the region as we see a couple of other low-pressure systems rolling through from the Iberian Peninsula into the central portions of the continent. Up toward the north, we're talking about some really frigid air coming in. This is causing temperatures to really plunge. And look at this for the high coming up on Wednesday. We're talking about some places where we're not getting out of the freezing mark here. Berlin, Warsaw, Stockholm, Moscow, Kyiv, all seeing temperatures highs not getting past the freezing point. Paris as well with snow into London as we go through the middle of the work week. A little bit different story across East Asia. We do have some showers down toward the southern areas of China, but temperatures will be warming up across Japan as we head through the rest of this week. Now, we do have a high-pressure system that's controlling the northern areas of China into the Korean Peninsula, but the stationary front down toward the south with the return flow is causing some more active rain to be taking place as we go